Well, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? When you feel that connection, when you know you are deeply loved, and what a wonderful feeling to know that the very force of creation, God, has called you to be gentle, to offer that forgiveness, and of course, just to love, truly love in the most profound way. And that's our mission, isn't it? That's what we're here for. But sometimes in this journey of faith, there are certain things that are just too sacred, too holy almost. Things that are meant for the deepest chamber of your heart, a conversation only between you and the divine. And this is where we have to be so careful. Because while God calls us to share our hearts, there are actually 5 specific, very powerful things that He, in His infinite wisdom, never actually meant for you to share. Not with your dearest friends, not even with the family members you trust the most, not even with those people you think are absolutely in your corner. Because, listen, some of the truths we carry, they are absolutely sacred. And in fact, the moment you speak them out loud, the second you let them escape into the world prematurely, you can unwittingly, you just might, invite a kind of spiritual warfare, a kind of resistance that you were never meant to fight alone. So let's take a deep breath and let's talk about what the divine has said we should absolutely, for your own peace and protection, never, ever tell anyone. This isn't about being deceptive, no, not at all. It's about being discerning. It's about being a good steward of the precious, holy assignments you've been given. Now this is a big one, it truly is. Because when God gives you a vision, and let's be real, a vision is like a glimpse behind the curtain, a piece of your future that hasn't materialized yet. It is, in that moment, not meant for public discussion. Not at all. It's for private, quiet, deep preparation. Think about it this way. A vision is a seed, right? And what happens when you dig up a seed every single day to show people, look, it's going to be a mighty oak tree? Well, of course, it never gets a chance to take root. It withers. And sometimes we learn this lesson the hard way. Just look at the story of Joseph. Remember that. He was a young man full of beautiful, powerful, world-changing dreams. But the moment he shared that dream, that incredible, holy vision, his own brothers, his own blood, they turned on him. And why? Well, not because he was doing anything morally wrong. No. But because his calling, his future destiny, it just naturally exposed the comfort, the kind of comfortable stagnation that they were living in. And this is a truth we often overlook. Some people, bless their hearts, they will genuinely celebrate you. They will cheer for your happiness, your small victories, all the way up until the moment your destiny, your real, God-given trajectory, starts to convict or challenge their own stagnation. Suddenly, that love, that support, it can twist into envy. So that's why, in His infinite love, God sometimes hides your plans. It's not a punishment. Never think it's a punishment. No, it's a profound act of protection. It's like covering a delicate plant from a sudden frost. When you speak too soon, when you get ahead of the divine timing, what you really invite are too many opinions, too much doubt, and that pesky spiritual interference. And every single word you speak, absolutely everyone, it carries weight. It has power. And the wrong ears, the ones lacking discernment or maybe holding a little bit of secret bitterness, they can twist what God whispered to you in a sacred moment. They can take that beautiful, pure guidance and turn it into something confusing or negative. The enemy, that spiritual adversary, is always listening for clues. Always. He studies patterns. He looks for open doors into your life, into your spirit, into your future. And guess what? Your words, the ones you speak carelessly, those can become that very open door. That's just a spiritual law. That's why, the wisdom we find in the Bible is so incredibly practical. Proverbs 29:11 says in simple language, "A fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back." And that's profound, isn't it? It's not about being secretive or cold. It's about being wise. Some visions, you see, they grow best in a quiet, undisturbed silence. Some blessings are actually safest when they are held in complete secrecy. You don't need validation from the world for what God has already confirmed in your spirit. If He said it, that's the final word, period. And here is the ultimate truth. When the time is truly right, when that vision has matured, your fruit, your results, your life, they will speak for themselves. You won't need to announce it with a loud fanfare. So please don't announce. Instead, prepare. Don't waste your energy trying to explain to people who won't understand. Instead, just obey the quiet instruction. Move quietly, move with grace. Pray deeply, let your roots go down, deep into the foundation of your faith. And then, finally, let your results preach a sermon far louder, far more convincing than any words you could ever say. If you've ever felt the sting of a plan falling apart because you spoke too soon, if you know the power of holding that vision close and letting it grow in the dark, then you understand that your strength isn't in your volume, it's in your silence. It's time to stop giving the enemy clues and start building your future under the divine radar. If you are committed to this new path of silent preparation, affirm it right now in the comments. Right. I move in silence. Let that be your quiet declaration of trust. If this concept of quiet preparation just clicked, if you feel a renewed mental clarity about your next steps, please go ahead and gently like this video right now. That simple action seals your commitment to this psychological advantage of moving in silence. This is often the hardest one for people who have a powerful spiritual connection, because you feel so excited, so full of that sacred fire, you just want to share it. But listen, some things that God speaks directly to you, they are meant for deep personal revelation, not for general conversation. When God whispers something to your spirit, and it could be a warning, a beautiful dream, a powerful conviction about a change you need to make, it is not always, not every single time, your job to run out and explain it to every single person you meet. Because some people, they will genuinely mock what their mind just cannot grasp or what their spirit doesn't understand. Others, and this is where the danger lies, they will twist it, they will question it, or they will subtly, maybe even unconsciously, plant doubt exactly where God planted a tiny, fragile seed of faith. And you don't need that. You really don't. Just take a moment and think about Mary, the mother of Jesus. What an incredible, mind-blowing, world-changing revelation she received from the angel. She was told she would carry the Son of God. But what did she do? She didn't run to the marketplace to prove it. She didn't post a sign. No. The Bible tells us in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verse 19, that she kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. She took the sacred revelation and she made her heart a sanctuary for it. And why? Why this intense silence? Because revelation, the pure, unadulterated truth from the divine, it loses its power. It loses its purity when it's exposed to the wrong atmosphere. It's like taking a delicate, shimmering piece of silk and dragging it through the mud. There are moments when God speaks specifically to protect you, to instruct you, or simply to prepare you for something huge that is coming. And if you release that message, that instruction, too early, you just invite voices, opinions, and energies that were never, ever meant to influence your personal obedience. They weren't meant to be part of that holy transaction between you and God. Some divine instructions, my friend, are absolutely like those seeds we talked about. They need to be buried. They need darkness and silence to germinate. If you dig them up too soon, if you keep showing them off, they will simply never grow into the mighty thing they were destined to be. And if you want to understand the exact mechanics of how to nurture those divine seeds and unlock the deeper potential within your spirit, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Subscribing is your commitment to accessing and mastering this profound, internal truth. So please guard what God whispers to you. Treat it like the most valuable secret in the world. Not every sacred word is meant for the public domain. Some are meant just for your altar, that sacred, private space of prayer and meditation, not for your audience, not for your casual conversations. Remember this: revelation is a sacred currency. It's incredibly valuable, and you should only spend it, only share it, only open up about it where you know there is true, deep, honest discernment. Wait for the moment, wait for the person, wait for the connection that God has anointed for that specific sharing. And you know, this principle is deeply connected to some really profound ideas in depth psychology, even though we are speaking about faith. It's about the concept of the unconscious as a vast, sacred reservoir. When a profound insight or a dream, a true revelation, emerges from the unconscious, it's often a symbol in need of quiet integration. If you immediately subject it to the rigid, rational judgment of the ego, or worse, the collective ego of social opinion, you strip away its symbolic power. You literally prevent that energy from integrating into your deepest self. So, the heart is the place for pondering, because the heart is where the ego loosens its grip, and the soul can actually integrate the revelation. That's the psychological parallel to Mary keeping things in her heart. It's spiritual integration, not intellectual analysis, that needs to happen first. But perhaps, let's take a quick breath before we move on to the next one. Sometimes the most sacred conversations are the ones that only God hears. If you are learning the wisdom of taking those precious whispers and holding them gently, knowing that your spirit is the safest place for divine truth, then you recognize the sanctity of that inner space. If you are ready to claim your heart as a protected, sacred space for revelation, declare it with conviction. Affirm in the comments, "My heart is my sanctuary." We've covered guarding your vision and guarding your revelation. It's all about creating a protective, quiet space for the holy work to happen. Well, now we shift gears a little bit, don't we? We move from what you receive, your vision, your revelation, to what you give. And this is where it gets really powerful in a quiet kind of way. And if you agree that the purest integrity is what truly builds self-worth, go ahead and like this video. It's a quiet nod to the truth that your value is fixed by God, not by public performance. You see, we live in a world that is absolutely obsessed with showing everything. Everything is photographed, everything is posted, everything is curated for that public viewing. But here's the thing, here's the ancient, timeless wisdom. God, the divine, He still places the highest value on what is done in secret. He really does. And I know it feels good to be recognized. It feels validating when people see the effort, the kindness, the sacrifice you've made. But what does the Holy Word say? Matthew chapter 6, verse 3 gives us this incredibly direct, almost challenging instruction. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Just think about that image for a moment. It means such a profound, deep level of secrecy that one part of you doesn't even know what the other part is doing. It's an analogy for pure, undistracted sincerity. And why this strict, almost radical secrecy? Well, because when you actively seek attention for something that should be done to honor God, to honor a pure motive, the whole reward system shifts. It really does. Instead of the reward coming from heaven's approval, that eternal, unfading blessing, it shifts immediately to human applause, which is fleeting, temporary, and honestly, a little empty. So many people bless their hearts, they go out there, they do the right, the truly good thing, but then they actually lose the full blessing, the true spiritual reward, because they want it to be seen. They just need that acknowledgement. And perhaps maybe they post about it. They mention it in a slightly too casual conversation. They subtly slip it into a story, hoping anyone will notice just how good, just how selfless they are. But listen, God doesn't need you to prove your goodness to him. He doesn't. He's already seen it. He knows the genuine intent of your heart. When you brag about your obedience, when you loudly proclaim your acts of selflessness, what you are essentially doing is shifting the focus. You make the sacrifice about you, your virtue, your reputation, your glory, and not about him. And the moment you trade true, quiet sincerity for public recognition, you also absolutely trade that deep, lasting, eternal reward for a temporary, fragile reputation. And that's a terrible exchange, isn't it? A truly terrible trade. That's why Jesus followed up immediately and said, "Your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you openly." Matthew 6:4. That open reward, it might not be a trophy or a standing ovation. If you're ready to trade fleeting human praise for that lasting, undeniable peace and reward that only God provides, go on and like this video now. That choice is your psychological commitment to a healthier, more powerful reward system. It might be peace. It might be sudden clarity. It might be protection for your family. It might be an anointing that people can see but can't explain. And you know, sometimes, some of your greatest, most significant spiritual victories will never, ever be public. The tears you cry in private prayer, the fasting you undertake that no one knows about, the anonymous giving you do, they may go completely unseen by people, yes, they may. But let me tell you, they echo loudly in heaven. They truly do. That's where the power is. So let's learn to give silently. Let's learn to pray privately, truly privately. Let's learn to love humbly without needing a spotlight on our goodness. Because when you keep your sacrifices hidden, when you are content to do the good without the glory, God in his perfect timing makes absolutely sure that your results, the fruit of your life, cannot possibly be ignored. They speak for themselves, loud and clear. That is the divine promise of secret service. If you are choosing integrity over recognition, if you value the approval of heaven above the applause of the crowd, then you are stepping into a profound level of spiritual maturity. This isn't just about hiding your giving. It's about operating in a quiet, powerful confidence that doesn't need external validation. If you choose to do the good work quietly and trust God to bring the result openly, solidify that commitment. Affirm this truth one more time. I move in silence. This one is incredibly tender, and it needs to be approached with such grace, because it touches on our deep human need for connection and vulnerability. But you have to understand this distinction. There is a huge, critical difference between a testimony and a wound. A testimony, that beautiful, empowering story, is what you share after God has completely healed you. It is the proof of his faithfulness. It is the map you give to others who are still walking through the wilderness. A wound, however, is the tender, raw spot that you must carefully protect while he is still working. It's the open surgery site that needs quiet, sterile conditions to close properly. And what happens too often? Too many people, driven by a deep emotional need for comfort, they open up the deepest parts of themselves, their rawest pain, to the wrong ears. They hope for that soothing comfort, that validation, but they often end up, tragically, just giving the enemy ammunition. We have to face this reality. Not everyone who listens actually cares. Some people, perhaps even unconsciously, they just collect information. They gather those painful facts about you, maybe to feel superior, maybe to dismiss you later, or maybe just to have something to gossip about. And that is why the ancient wisdom of Proverbs 4:23 is so vital for our emotional and spiritual survival. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Your heart is the command center, the spring from which everything else flows. Your vulnerability, my friend, that is holy ground. It really is. Not everyone is meant to stand on it. Not everyone has the sacred shoes required to tread there. Even Jesus, the ultimate teacher of love and transparency, even he didn't reveal everything to everyone. He was so discerning. He had the crowds, the general public who heard parables. He had the disciples, the group who received more direct teaching. And then he had the inner circle, Peter, James, and John, who were allowed to witness the most sacred, transformative moments, like the Transfiguration. And even then, there were still things only he and the Father shared. That's a lesson in sacred boundaries. It is absolutely okay to be transparent. Transparency is powerful, but we must be spirit-led, not merely emotionally driven. We can't just react purely out of that emotional ache to be seen or understood. You need to share your battles, your vulnerabilities, with those who are truly anointed to handle them, with mentors, true prayer partners, counselors, people who have proven gentle discernment, not just with anyone who happens to be available to hear them. There's a profound difference between the two. If this realization brings you a sense of emotional liberation and protection, please like this video. Liking affirms your wisdom to discern between helpful counsel and unnecessary vulnerability. Because when you expose that pain, that deep, raw wound too early, you risk two things. First, that spiritual interference, and second, you risk reopening what God is diligently, patiently trying to close and seal. You risk interrupting the deep, integrative process of healing. And this is where depth psychology speaks volumes again, connecting beautifully with the spirit. When we talk about healing from trauma or deep psychological wounds, a concept like integration is key. We cannot integrate a raw trauma experience into our healthy personality structure instantly. The ego defenses must protect the self until the overwhelming emotional energy is metabolized. If you rush to share a trauma before it's processed, you risk what's called a re-traumatization, or simply a reinforcing of the victim identity, instead of integrating the experience as a survivor. The instruction to guard your heart is the spiritual imperative to allow for this quiet psychological integration. So until your deep, painful wound has truly become your powerful, faith-filled witness, until it is fully integrated, stay quiet, stay prayerful, stay under the cover of the divine protection, and let God finish that beautiful, sacred, transforming healing in secret. Well, we've arrived at the final sacred secret, and this one, perhaps, is the trickiest one of all to navigate, especially in this very connected world we live in. We're talking about your blessings, that incredible, undeserved favor God has poured into your life. If you feel the spiritual advantage of this protective wisdom, that understanding that keeps negative energy away from your favor, give this video a gentle like. You are confirming your commitment to operating under God's own shield. And you know this is a harsh truth, but it must be spoken with love. Not everyone who appears to be celebrating with you is actually, genuinely happy for you. It's just a reality of human nature, isn't it? Some people, they will praise you publicly, they'll smile right to your face, but they are secretly, privately, wrestling with envy deep inside their hearts. And that's a dangerous energy to expose yourself to. If the spiritual adversary, if the enemy, can't manage to steal your faith, if he can't get you to doubt the truth of God's word, well, then he will absolutely try a different strategy. He'll try to steal your focus by turning your very blessing, that gift, into a visible, irresistible target. And sometimes, just sometimes, after God blesses you in a truly profound, tangible way, things suddenly, unexpectedly, get harder. Maybe you notice new resistance, new criticism, or maybe you just feel a strange, draining heaviness. And perhaps that happens because you unintentionally exposed what was meant to stay quiet, to stay hidden for a little while longer. Think about the story of the wise men who traveled all that way to see baby Jesus. After they found him, after they gave their gifts and received that profound spiritual encounter, what happened? An angel of God warned them specifically not to tell Herod, the powerful and jealous king, where the child was. Why? Because that particular blessing, that miraculous life, was so fragile, so new, it couldn't survive immediate exposure to hostile power. Some blessings, my friends, are just like that. They are incredibly fragile. They are too new, too vulnerable to survive a premature exposure to the world's harsh light and judgment. God's favor, that deep, rich, tangible blessing, it's like fresh oil. It must be covered and protected until it is absolutely ready to pour out, ready to be used. When you tell the wrong people, the unprepared hearts, exactly what God has given you, what can follow? Well, jealousy, doubt, and yes, sometimes even unconscious curses or ill wishes can follow right behind. And this isn't about superstition. No, not at all. This is about profound spiritual wisdom, about understanding the energy and the power of words spoken over your life. So let us learn to celebrate. Yes, we must celebrate, but let's celebrate in gratitude, in a deep, quiet conversation with our Creator, not in loud, boastful public display. Thank God quietly. Go to your prayer closet, drop to your knees, and thank Him deeply, completely, before you feel the need to tell the world loudly. Let your peace be the absolute, undeniable proof that you are blessed. Let your quiet, settled joy be the evidence, not your social media posts or your loud praise reports to everyone you meet. Because true favor, genuine, deep, God-given favor, it really doesn't need an announcement. It doesn't. It simply reveals itself, beautifully and powerfully in the fullness of time. You see, when you guard your blessings, you are not acting out of fear. You are acting out of faith. You are acknowledging that the source of your favor is God, and His covering is the only protection you truly need against jealousy or negative energy. If you believe that your life, your blessings, and your future are protected by a power greater than any human opinion, then claim that covering. Write in the comments, "I am covered." And so, we come to the end of these 5 sacred secrets. But what is the overarching theme? What is the one big takeaway from all of this? Every single secret God asks you to guard, whether it is your dream, your revelation, your sacrifice, your healing, or your blessing, it is not about enforcing a cold, silent isolation. No, that's not it at all. It is about stewardship. It's about being a careful, wise manager of the most precious, delicate things you've been given. Your dreams, your deep insights, your acts of worship, your tender process of healing, your beautiful blessings, they are all sacred assignments. They are all gifts that require a specific kind of care. And when you learn to protect what is holy, when you learn to put a quiet, discerning boundary around these sacred things, you actually create the perfect, quiet space for God to step in and multiply it. He truly does. Why? Because the enemy cannot effectively attack what he doesn't know about. He can't, not really. And people, even with the best intentions, they can't curse or interfere with what they can't see clearly. So please take this wisdom to heart. Guard your words with the same intensity, the same love that you guard your own heart. Move quietly. Love deeply, love without fanfare. And let your life, the transformation you live every single day, let it speak volumes louder, more convincingly than any words that ever escape your lips. The truth is, God is not trying to hide things from you, not at all. He is teaching you, patiently and lovingly, how to protect what is profoundly and eternally for you. Because when you learn the immense, powerful value of moving in silence, that is when He starts to speak louder, clearer, and more powerfully in your spirit. So before you share your very next dream, your new blessing, or that breakthrough you're so excited about, just ask yourself this one simple, powerful question. Is this for people's ears, or is this truly for God's glory? If this message resonated deep within your soul, I want you to drop a comment below and write the word GUARD IT. And please make sure you subscribe, because the next conversation we have will reveal exactly how God exposes the people who are secretly plotting against your destiny. Stay covered. Stay discerning. God is still speaking. Just make sure the right people, the right spirits are the ones listening.